There are so many people out there who get the bare minimum of $23 a month in SNAP benefits and have no idea why. Today, I want to break down what can cause that and what you can do to possibly mitigate that and make sure that you're actually getting the correct amount. Because I think a lot of people who end up at this rate typically are missing out on some major things that could help improve the amount that they're receiving. So let's dive in and talk about this. So I'm sure you already know, but SNAP benefits are based on your income. But some of your expenses can help offset that income so that not as much of it counts against you. And that is the part that a lot of people miss. So, right now, $23 is the bare minimum amount of SNAP that they can give you. If you would otherwise qualify for less, they have to give you at least that $23. Now, of course, it's your responsibility to report your household size, your income, your expenses, and whatever correctly to make sure that you're getting the right amount. And we've learned over the years that making mistakes in your reporting can cost you significant amounts of money. So it all starts with your income, right? The more income you have, the less you're going to get in those SNAP benefits. So it starts by figuring out what your gross monthly income is before taxes and deductions and all of that. Typically, that has to be at about 130% of the federal poverty level for your household size or less in order to qualify for these benefits. Now, of course, the SNAP program is going to count income from all sources, right? They're going to look at your earned income, whether that's a job or self employment. They're going to look at any cash assistance, Social Security, VA benefits, unemployment, child support, anything like that that you're earning. In a lot of cases, they're even going to look and see if you're earning anything from those survey sites or other resources as well, because they want to get the big picture of your finances. Now, once they've added all of that together, that's when they start looking at things like deductions. There are a lot of different deductions that are allowed in the SNAP program, and these include things like a 20% deduction on your earned income, a standard deduction that varies based on your household size, a dependent care deduction, which, by the way, goes beyond just childcare. That can be an adult that has special needs, an elderly parent. There's a lot of different dependent care situations that you may be able to include for a deduction there. It also includes the medical expense deductions for seniors and people with disabilities. And in my opinion, that is the number one most neglected deduction of all time. And I will talk to you about that a little bit later. In fact, if you've been on our channel for a little while, you may have already seen we did a separate video about that not too long ago because it is such a big deal. And of course, you can also get a deduction for child support payments in some states, your shelter costs, which can include your rent and mortgage payments, basic utilities, property taxes, so on and so forth. But that is capped at $712 a month unless you have a household member who is either elderly or disabled. And generally, elderly is going to be considered age 60 or older for the purposes of this program. Now, once they calculate all of those deductions and they take all of that out of your income, then they get what they call your net income. But they're still not done yet because the SNAP office expects you to spend about 30% of your own resources on food. And I think that's a common misunderstanding in this program because we get a lot of comments from people who are upset that their SNAP allotment isn't enough to pay for food for the entire month. And it was never designed to be. The USDA and the government expect you to spend about a third of your own resources on food for your household. So they calculate your SNAP payment by calculating your net income, multiplying it by 0.3 to get that 30%. And then they say, okay, well, that's your share. And then they subtract that 30% figure that they have from the maximum allotment for your household size. So let's take a look at those maximum allotments for your household size. Now, this is current as of July of 2025. I pulled this from the USDA website, and you can see here that there is a staggered maximum monthly amount for each household size. For one person, it can be up to $292 a month. If you're only receiving that $23 a month, it's because they're assuming that your 30% share is the difference between those two figures and that you have that money to spend on food for yourself. The best way to correct that, obviously, is to make sure that you're getting all the deductions that you're entitled to, which we're going to go into here in just a moment. Like I said, $23 is the very minimum amount that they can give you. I have had some people in the comments say that they're getting less. And if that's the case for you, I would really love to hear about that because that's definitely concerning to me. My best guess, obviously, I don't work for the government. I have no inside knowledge about your case. If you're getting less than $23, my assumption would be that you have some sort of overpayment that they're recouping. I don't know. That definitely would be weird. But ultimately, like I said, if you're getting that $23, it means they think that you make too much to qualify for more. But many seniors and people on disability end up in this bracket because they don't claim that medical expense deduction. So it's really important to make sure that all of your eligible deductions are counted correctly. Of course, the good news on that is that most of them are automatic, right? The 20% earned income deduction is automatic. The standard deduction that all households get based on household size, all of that is going to be automatic, but some of them are not. And the medical expense deduction really is one of the big ones that is not automatic. To be eligible for that, you have to be over the age of 60 or you have to have a disability. And so one of those two things, plus you have to spend more than $35 out of pocket on medical costs. There's a whole long list of things that can count as that medical cost, including your Medicare premiums, your medications, transportation, doctor's appointments, all sorts of things. But I don't want to bore those of you who already saw that other video. So if you're curious about that deduction, please go check out that other video. It has all the information that you need to get started with that. Now, assuming that that's not your issue, you also want to make sure that you update your earnings when your hours or wages change significantly. I have been astonished by how many people I know that get their hours cut at work and suddenly they're bringing in half as much money as they were, and they don't tell anybody, and they don't tell the SNAP office, and their SNAP benefits don't go up, and they're missing out on all this money that they could have received otherwise. So if you find yourself in a situation where your earnings have gone down, please report that. Get that extra help that you could be entitled to. You also want to make sure that you're reporting changes in your household size or family size right away to make sure that you're getting the right amount. If you are pregnant, make sure that you report the birth of your child as soon as it happens so that you can get that extra increase in your benefits, okay? And on that note, you also want to be careful who you include in your household. There are special rules, especially for seniors and people with disabilities, that can really make an impact on how much you're getting in benefits every month. So I want to show you this screenshot here from the USDA website. This is a direct capture from the link that you see there on screen on the USDA website, and it's defining who should be included in your SNAP household. So you can see clearly in that first line there, they are including everyone who lives together and purchases and prepares meals together is grouped together as one SNAP household. That's a lot of different criteria, right? So people like roommates where you live together, but you're not necessarily sharing food together, they don't need to be included in your household. This is a really common mistake that drags down people's benefits because they just include the income of everyone who lives in their house. And all of that income counts against you. And it can really, really drag down the amount that you are able to get in those SNAP benefits. So you want to make sure that you're only including people who both live with you and purchase and prepare their food with you. Both of those things need to be met. Now, there are some exceptions to that, right? And it says in the next line here, some people who live together, such as spouses and most children under age 22, are included in the same SNAP household, even if they purchase and prepare meals separately. Now, I found that out the hard way when I was young and I had just gotten married because we moved in with my in-laws and they made way too much for food stamps, but they also weren't providing food for my husband and I, and we were so poor. It was so bad. But we went in to apply for food stamps and we were denied because my husband was 20 and I was younger than that. And so we were told, well, you either need to move out or you need to wait until you're 22 because if you're under age 22, we're going to assume that your family is feeding you. So that really sucked. But you should know, just be aware that in most cases, they will just assume that your spouse and any child under the age of 22 is eating the family food. Now, that being said, there is some exceptions here for people who are elderly or disabled. It says if a person is 60 years of age or older and unable to purchase and prepare meals separately because of a permanent disability, the person and the person's spouse may be a separate SNAP household if the others they live with do not have very much income, no more than 165% of the poverty level. Now, this is important. I know a lot of you who watch our channel are seniors, so I want you to pay attention to this. If you and your spouse are over the age of 60 and you are unable to purchase or prepare your meals separately because of a permanent disability, you can count as a separate household than the rest of the people that you live with. This can make a huge difference. So please bear that in mind. It also says here that normally you are not eligible for SNAP benefits if an institution gives you most of your meals. There are exceptions, so on and so forth. So you want to make sure that you're very careful about who you include in your household. You don't want to include people whose income is going to count against you if they're not sharing food with you, right? You want to make sure that you're not leaving off people who are sharing food with you because you don't want to get hit with, program violations, things like that. We're going to talk about that in a different video, because intentionally putting misleading information on your application is just as bad as, if not worse, than getting a smaller amount than you should. That being said, I know this information has been very helpful to other people that I've worked with, and I wanted to make sure that you had a solid understanding of this. Now, if you are experiencing changes, you may be able to adjust your benefits in the middle of your certification period. If you reach out to the office, you can ask to update your case, you can ask for a review, you can ask for a hearing if you need to. If for some reason you feel like you're not able to access the help that you need, you can call legal aid. You might be able to connect with an advocate or an ombudsman to be able to help run interference for you to get extra help with that. I know a lot of people have a hard time actually getting support from the office, and I never want to make it sound like I'm minimizing the amount of effort that this takes. I know it's not easy, but I also know that you are important and you are worth fighting for. And the person who's always going to fight hardest for you is you, right? So I'm hoping that I can give you the information and the tools that you need to advocate for yourself and protect yourself and make sure that you're getting what you deserve. So with that in mind, I know we've said this a lot in other videos. Even if you only get that $23 a month, even if you've watched this entire video and it just turns out that that is for some reason the right amount for you, I want you to know that there are a ton of extra perks that can help make that $23 more worth it, right? It can unlock free phone plans, discounted internet service, help with utilities and other bills, discounts at Amazon, Walmart, Target, etc., transportation discounts, free and discounted museum admission. You can use double up food bucks. There's all sorts of different programs out there that having an EBT card can unlock for you, even if you only get that very bare minimum in benefits. So please check out our other videos for details on those and other perks. I will see you there. And in the meantime, please don't forget to go check out our sponsor, Free Cash. They'll pay you to test new apps, play games, and more. You can get started there with the link that you see on screen. And I will be back soon with more ways that you can save money and get free stuff.